I am going to actually put up an update from the actual Reckless Ben and Brian situation about the Star Wars Lego collection that is still unaccounted for either by monetary value or the actual Lego collection to actually be given back, or at least get Brian the full amount that he is owed. But this update actually comes from CoffeeZilla himself from a video titled "I Found the $200,000 Missing Lego." He's talking about the Lego collection, basically the Star Wars Cloud City Lego collection. I actually went for the non-spoiler synopsis. I am not sure what this video is about and what CoffeeZilla has, but he's a very influential thing when it comes to finances. He's definitely an ace in a hole when it comes to uncovering financial crimes and financial liability, which creates drama. Now, for him to actually be involved in the bricks and minifigs situation, for him to actually be covering for this is an actually huge help. So I checked out the synopsis. So this investigation by CoffeeZilla delves into the mysterious disappearance of a massive Star Wars Lego collection estimated to be worth approximately $200,000, which have been placed on consignment at a bricks and minifigs store in Salem, Oregon, which ever since has been under new ownership directly assigned by the bricks and minifigs corporate, basically to put their person over there. But I think it was closed since then. Or maybe, and then they probably switched. They probably switched locations. Oh, yeah, that's right, because of the LLC thing. That's right, yeah. So on November 14, 2024, the store underwent a management change from the original franchise owners Crystal and Ben Gorman to new owners Brandon Best and Josh Johnson. While the collection's owner Brian Mansell expected the sets to be accounted for, corporate statements and physical evidence from the night of the transition present conflicting narratives regarding how much, if any, of the collection remained in the store. Throughout the video, the investigator interviews the various parties involved, including the Gormans, the McNabb brothers, CEO/CEO, respectively, of Bricks and Minifigs, and others, to parse through contradictory claims, photographic evidence, and alleged record-keeping discrepancies. The documentary aims to reconstruct the events of that night to determine what actually happened to the collection, navigating through a complex web of accusations, potential procedural errors, and legal disputes. I don't know what CoffeeZilla has in mind over here, but oh boy, we are gonna have to really dive into it. So, without any further delay, let's get into it.
A $200,000 Lego collection went missing, causing a lot of you to ask me to find it. And after seeing the cops point guns at YouTubers, people get arrested and sued for $1.3 million, I decided enough was enough. This looks like a case for the internet detective, this time in the $10 million Lego studio. So I talked to every suspect involved. What I found shocked me.
I really like it that he changed up his animation to actually fit the Legos, which is actually great. That's AI or not, it doesn't matter. At least the actual layouts actually adapt relating to the cases, which is actually great. Thank you.
Okay, before we can find these missing Legos, let's give some background. A massive Star Wars collection was put on consignment at a Lego store called Bricks and Minifigs in Salem.
Okay.
Consignment just means the owner, Brian Mansell, gave it to a store to sell, and he was supposed to get a cut when it sold. The entire time, he maintained ownership of the collection, and a social media post estimated it to be worth about $200,000.
Yes.
Then, on November 14th, 2024, everything went wrong. This was the night that Crystal and Ben Gorman, the prior franchise owners of the Salem store,
he interviewed them. Yes!
That is Brandon Best. He and his partner, Josh Johnson, ran a sister store in Eugene, Oregon, and Brandon drove up that night to kick the Gormans out. Brandon and Josh would be taking over the franchise in Salem, and this is the exact moment the Legos go missing. As that store is getting handed over, the question is Brian's collection in it? Here's what the official Bricks and Minifigs press release reads. Quote, after taking over the store, we discovered a small number of sets valued between $2,000 to $5,000 that could be possibly related to Mr. Mansell's collection. But there's a problem. There should be over 10 times that amount in the store, given their internal records and what we know the estimated value of this collection was. So if corporate's saying there was only $2,000 to $5,000,
they took the rest to be sold elsewhere. They're fucking thieves. They're basically fucking thieves. Go right ahead, CoffeeZilla. Please, just say it, that they're fucking thieves. That is not a fucking allegation. They stole them.
In the store, something happened to these Legos. But what? In order to solve this case, let's think about the suspects. First, who was there that night of the handover? It's only 3 people. Crystal and Ben Gorman, the former franchise owners, and Brandon Best, one of the new owners. These are our 3 biggest suspects, but they aren't the only ones. I want to address a few other suspects at the very start here. First of all, maybe this is just all the result of, plain old thieves breaking in.
That's not possible. Corporate just doesn't want to lose anything that's actually of value to them. So I doubt there would be actual thieves that are actually coming as third parties. Absolutely fucking not. What? They'd actually be paying thieves to actually take away those Legos? That's not wise to them. So They would rather just keep the most valuable ones secured. So obviously they would actually take the most valuable ones out of that store and then just pass it off onto a statement that there are less inventory the moment they took it, which is actually not possible. They're lying pieces of fucking shit
About that possibility.
Hi, I am Chris. I was the previous franchise owner who signed the collection agreement with Brian Mansell.
And I'm Benjamin Gorman. I am the silent partner who's really bad at being silent.
We did have a couple of break-ins at the store. None of Brian's collections were in the police report or stolen.
It's not Thieves.
Okay, so the Gormans say emphatically it wasn't Thieves, but if that's the case, what about the guy who was arrested? I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Reckless Ben. This is the YouTuber who started it all. With a documentary, I tracked down the thief who stole $200,000 of Lego. Maybe it's the perfect crime. Make a video tracking yourself. Now, for our theory, it's worth noting Ben is currently facing a RICO lawsuit by Bricks and Minifigs. He was even targeted with a search warrant for stolen Legos.
Included in the warrant are Legos.
The owner reported overhearing conversations about possible stolen Legos.
And on top of that, Reckless Ben was even accused of stealing the Legos by the current franchise owner.
I stole the Legos?
What do you think of the theory that it was Reckless Ben? He stole the Legos.
It's absurd. We didn't even know Reckless Ben. We
Yeah.
had no interaction, no relation to us, no relation to the store. That doesn't hold any water.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. Apologies to the genius cops in Utah who play different.
We play differently here.
But I don't believe that Reckless Ben stole the Lego, mostly because he couldn't. He just wasn't there that night, and I don't even think he knew about these Legos. But who does Ben suspect is holding the Legos since he did this whole documentary series?
Ammon.
The guy who runs the entire company, Ammon McNeff, he personally came out to talk to us.
So what's going on?
So you guys are holding some of our Legos?
No, we're not.
You're not? Is that a lie?
No.
That's a lie. You did take the Legos.
So we have our attorneys have visited. Like again. So who's let?
Brian Mansell.
Okay, and who's that?
He's a guy who had he had like $200,000 worth of Legos in his store.
Never happened.
He fucking lies right there.
CEO of the Bricks and Minifigs brand.
And he keeps fucking
I'm
lying.
the COO of Bricks and Minifigs.
The people you just saw are the McNeff brothers. They agreed to speak with me.
No, those two are not brothers. Those two are pieces of shit. They should not have been born into this world.
To try to clear their name. I asked them, do they have the Lego?
What I can tell you is that we don't have it. We've never had access to it.
It seems to kind of go missing. Parts of it seem to go missing on November 14th. Well, and I guess that, no, not at all. I'm going to say, that is not accurate at all. Because
So you think that the collection was in the store at the time or elsewhere?
elsewhere, when you look at Mansell's own words that he reiterated to a podcast last year, he explicitly stated to another podcaster, the sets were moved off-site for security.
The collection will not be stored on site after hours for security reasons, and after Sunday, the sets will be available for purchase but stored elsewhere.
Now, one thing that's been a big subject of the Bricks and Minifigs kind of story is, hey, there are these off-site locations. Can you address what that is? Is that true?
So the off-site location and the letter that that corporate is referring to is the original press release that we released when we were launching the collection. In that press release, because we had previous break-ins, I specifically included the location that again, those Legos would be stored off-site to deter any future thefts. They were briefly stored off-site after that launch weekend while I bought safes for the back room, and then they were moved back into the store.
Okay, so for most of the time, the sets were in the store after y'all got the safes in.
Okay.
Okay, so Ammon McNeff suspects that a lot of the Legos weren't there that night. And then on the other hand, we just heard from Crystal and Ben Gorman explaining the off-site story, saying that later they no longer use those off-site locations. But what do we really know about the Gorman? They are the former franchise owners after all. I mean, shouldn't we be suspicious of everyone? They're one of our key suspects. They were there the night we lost Brian's collection. They were the creators of the consignment deal after all. And one group in particular is pointing their finger at them very hard. It's the McNeffs who say they were behind on payments.
We started getting calls from the landlord letting us know that Crystal was behind on the lease payments at the location. We had also gotten a couple of notices from some of our vendor partners that bills had not been paid by the store. And so we felt pretty strongly that there was going to be a risk of her just, attempting to file bankruptcy, doing some of these other types of things, which we've had franchisees do in the past, and that's problematic. So that's why we sent them up there to take some video footage. So we needed to just be prepared if we need to do a hostile takeover, which, can happen in franchising, where a franchise owner just, kind of tries to steal inventory and do some different things that way.
Okay, so Bricks and Minifigs' story is that they were worried about the Gormans skipping town, so they sent Brandon Best as a secret shop.
So basically, they fear that they're not going to be able to make their payments on rent? Okay, no. That does not fucking hold water. What the fuck?
On October 24, 2024. This is weeks before the takeover. Brandon takes a video of the store condition in preparation for this handover, but at this point, Brandon does not announce himself to Crystal Gorman. Later, though, on November 14th, once again, the same concern about the Gorman stealing or theft was expressed by the McNeff.
Brandon was trying to make sure that they weren't taking things from the store, and so he was kind of trying to make sure that she wasn't putting things, hiding things in the back, and that he, while he was watching that, trying to make sure Ben wasn't grabbing stuff from the store and moving or doing anything along those lines. Because he just got a weird feeling about the whole transition.
She took at least one, if not more than one, cartfuls of things out to her car with her coat draped over it.
So yeah, the McNeffs say, look, they don't trust the Gorman. And they explained it, even further. They said, hey, there's some issues in her past.
She apparently has a retail theft and other criminal arrests on her record that we were not aware of.
When was that?
I don't know. This has been brought out by several people online now.
Now, look, that's a huge accusation to bring up. And so obviously I want
They're
to
just making shit up every time.
She has a history of some type of burglary, theft.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, that's what they're
Wow.
They'd say that.
Well, yes.
Well,
You know about this.
Explain.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old.
How long ago is that?
I am 45 now.
That was decades ago! The McNeff brothers are lying sacks of shit. The cases that she had were absolutely way too long ago. Those brothers are lying sacks of shit. They should never be trusted. At all.
So this was in 1999. This, something that happened 25 years ago, has no reflection and no bearing on what happened in the last 2 years, my management of the store, what happened the night corporate seized the store. It is another deflection, and it infuriates me. You're going to try to publicly embarrass and shame me for somebody that was manipulated by local police departments when she was pregnant and 19 years old?
Oh my God. God damn. It's just coming out more and more that the McNeffs are liars. Are absolute liars here.
You. That's my response to that. I am so sorry. You're going to have to blur and cut a lot of this, but that pisses me off. I own what I have done. I own the mistakes that I have made. You cannot intimidate and bully me into backing down when I know that legally and morally I am in the right and I have the evidence to back it up.
Wow, this is getting kind of nasty and personal at this point, and I just wanted to give people kind of their side. But at every turn, I hope you understand, I'm getting contradictory stories, down to if the McNeffs knew about her history in the first place.
Like, they're bringing up something that I told them about.
Wait, you told them?
Told them. They asked me.
They said they had no idea. They said if we knew, we would have never hired her.
We would not have hired her had we known this.
I told them I had a record from when I was 18. There was a family issue that and didn't go into all
They
the
fucking
details.
use that.
Like, that's
Oh my
long
God.
ago. We're going to hire you based on who you are now.
Okay, I'm just going to leave it there. You guys can make up your own mind. My point is, one side says up, the other says down, and it gets to the point both sides start hinting that they have photographic proof from the night of November 14th that proves the other side is lying. So I'm like, look, at this point, let's stop talking. Show me the Lego.
Where I was told we are 100% have possession of photos that prove that the Gormans are lying. And then you guys are telling me we 100% have possession of photos that prove this side's lying. Who's going to drop the photos first? I mean, I feel like someone just has to, somebody's right here.
After a lot of convincing, both sides agreed to show me the photos, corporate and the Gorman. In fact, I scheduled the calls to do this an hour apart from each other. But let's remember their positions for a second. The Gormans say whatever was left unsold of Brian's collection that was in that store spreadsheet was in Salem store the night of November 14th. Then you have corporate side. They say whatever was left that night was maybe $2,000 to $5,000 of Legos. The rest was either stolen by thieves, the Gormans, or held off-site. It was not in that store. And on both sides, it's a lot to lose here, right? You've got the Gormans, who basically have been insinuated to have been stealing. And for Josh and Brandon, too, the new franchise owners, there's a lot on the line. I reached out to Josh, and he told me, I think her pictures would only show a few sets and minifigs. I replied, so if I can prove that the Lego sets were in the store, that will prove Brandon was lying. Josh replies, if it shows something different, then yes, I will eat my word. So the stakes have been a step. And let's see the evidence, starting with Matt McNeff. First, he showed me the video, October 24, 2024, for a baseline of how the store looked.
So this is the Salem Kaiser location, is that correct?
Salem Kaiser location, yes.
So is it fair to say I'm seeing quite a few Legos here? I mean, I'm seeing a store of Legos. You'd agree?
There's a good amount of Lego on hand. This isn't what I would say is a well-stocked bricks and minifigs, but it's not terrible. It's I would say a little below average as far as overall stock. So now let's go to November 14th. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so November 14th, when Brandon was in there.
Wait, this is the day. This is like the big day.
This is the day.
Hold on, I gotta prep myself emotionally for this.
Okay.
This is a big deal. This is D-Day. This is the big moment. This is Brandon takes over the store. We don't know where the Legos are after this moment.
We don't know where the Legos are after this. And I want to point out again that we've had this for a while. We haven't, but this is the first time we've shown this publicly. We've been waiting for our attorneys to give us the approval to say, hey, this is okay now to share in this capacity. So we'll go through these pictures. This is what Josh saw, or not Josh, sorry, Brandon saw. He took pictures of everything in the store, all the inventory in the store. This is what the shelves look like compared to what you just saw a moment ago.
Okay, so I'm seeing a lot less. Just to state the obvious, go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like way less.
So yeah, the pictures I was being shown on November 14th, those shelves look emptier than they did on the day of October 24th. But to be fair,
Okay.
they addressed the empty shelves themselves.
As we get to the very end of this video in particular, right here, you'll see that empty space right here. So this is the retired and certified set section that we have to keep separate from the new in-box current sets being sold by Lego. All those empty spaces up there were the sets that we had on display during the day from Brian's collection that every night when the store closed, we pulled off and put back into the safe and then put back out in the morning.
So when they say, see, there's empty space on the shelves? Yeah, because we put them in safes at night
Yeah,
to keep them safe.
because we have giant windows.
Yeah, it's an explanation that kind of makes sense given the history of burglary. Now, of course, this is something I had to ask the McNeffs about. Is this a case of, did y'all see Star Wars sets in the back? Did y'all not see the Star Wars sets in the back? Did he take, not in the back, but specifically in a safe? Like there were a bunch of Star Wars sets in a safe. Did Brandon see those? Has there been talk of those? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, my understanding is that he took pictures of everything, and all those photos I showed you of Star Wars were all the photos, or was literally all the Star Wars inventory in the store.
Yeah, the McNeffs say all of the photos should be with Brandon of all the Star Wars items. To be fair to them, they showed me a lot more pictures and even showed me a spreadsheet of all the Star Wars sets in the store the night Brandon took it over, and it valued to about like $5,000 to $10,000 or so. But then I had to ask.
So here's another kind of set.
Okay.
Do you think y'all have all of these?
Very like that. Again, I'd be surprised if we didn't.
But then I couldn't help myself. I started to bring up some of Crystal's photos to see if they matched up.
Have you seen this before?
Not that I recall.
So do you see that?
Yep.
So do you see it's in like some kind of like a safe thing? I don't know if you can see the sides there.
Looks like a bookshelf to me, but sure.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So I think the important thing is making sure that all of these are in the inventory for Mansell.
Sure, that's cool.
75041.
Yep, Ultra Droid.
75169.
169 I'm not seeing, so there may be, okay. So there's one that is not on our list.
Let's try this. 10240.
Nope, not seeing that one either.
What about 9493?
I don't see that one either. So maybe those were locked at the time, and Brandon did not get those pictures.
All right, that's kind of a problem because the Gormans had over 200 photos of this store.
Yeah, the Gormans take. Yeah, there is a big problem. It's in the side of the Gormans that they did take pictures of their own inventory, and I think the McNeffs purposefully hid them. Oh, this is a big problem. This is a huge problem. This is a huge problem for Bricks and Minifigs. This is a huge problem for them. Their credibility is starting to sink here.
And the Gormans photos, like quite a lot that Brandon's photos just didn't show. But corporate didn't really see it that way.
But still, in the grand scheme of things, we're not talking again.
In the fucking grand scheme of things, go fuck yourself. Wow.
10 times the amount of sets.
I don't know. I haven't shown all the photos yet. I don't know exactly how much.
If there's a calculable figure that we can look at and say, great, this is what was there, I promise you, it's not $100,000 worth of Lego. And so where's the rest of it? You got me. I don't know.
Maybe I'm a little too in my head about this U-Haul story. You don't think it could have been some U-Haul thing? There's no way.
Oh, yeah. Have we talked about the U-Haul yet? We got to talk about the U-Haul for a second.
Okay.
This is another one of those things that was like really disputed between the two parties. Was this U-Haul that supposedly was driven up to the store the night of the takeover?
So when Brandon came to the store that night, he was driving a U-Haul truck.
Now, in typical fashion, this was immediately disputed.
Brandon showed up to the Salem store in a rental car. When he came to get the keys from Crystal, he was there in a rental car, not in a U-Haul.
It wasn't until
Excuse me?
after he told me he was taking the keys and locking me out that I really kind of paid attention to the fact that he had a large, not the small, the large U-Haul truck.
So yeah,
Oh my god. Corporate took those specific items that the Gormans have actually documented away from the store, the higher value ones, to make her look bad, to stage this kind of narrative that Thieves took away those specific sets, to also make her look bad. Every millisecond just points me to the fact, it's not opinion, the fact that the McNeffs hid those, stole those. I said it once, I'm gonna say it again, they're lying sacks of shit.
kept hearing about this U-Haul truck. Now, why is it significant, U-Haul or not? Well, one, the U-Haul truck can fit a lot of Legos, but the big reason it mattered to me was because I was actually called by an ex-employee of the Bricks and Minifigs store in Eugene, Oregon. Remember, the one that Brandon and Josh own. And he told me something very interesting.
I'm a former employee, started in 2024, and I was working under the old manager Brian, and we sold the store to Brandon and Josh.
What store was this? Bricks and Minifigs where? Okay, now what did you see that made you want to talk to me?
I saw Reckless Ben's YouTube video about the Salem store closing down because I was talking to my co-workers about the situation of Salem, and we were told through other employees that it was just a bad area to work in. It was like haunted, if you will, going around. But after seeing the video of Reckless Ben, he exposed them, and it makes a lot more sense what we dealt with Brandon and Josh. Like, Crystal stole Lego sets and bolted out of the country.
Who says that?
Brandon Best told us.
Oh fucking hell.
When he was jumping off all the Lego sets to us that night. It was a bunch of used Lego sets that sell like saran wrap. They had Star Wars CD. They just a lot of stock. It was like a medium-sized U-Haul truck.
Wait, they brought a U-Haul truck
from Salem to Eugene.
And to Eugene, and it had a bunch of Star Wars sets on it?
Yeah, Star Wars sets and everything. A bunch of used stuff too.
Wait, and was this when they took over the store from Crystal?
I believe so, yes. Because he said that Crystal stole Legos and left the country.
While he has a U-Haul of Legos?
Yeah.
Interesting. Weird.
So then he said, we're just going to hold on to this stuff until corporate tells us where we have to distribute it. And we're like, well, it makes more sense if we can take it because you're kind of struggling with, the product that's on the shelves.
Oh my god.
Corporate fucking stole those actual Lego sets, transferred them to the Eugene, Oregon branch. This is fucking burning proof that corporate is acting in bad faith. Fucking acting in bad faith against their own fucking consumers. Bad fucking move, Bricks and Minifigs. You're all fucked. All of you, not just the CEOs, all of you.
We really got to find out, was there a U-Haul that night or not? Because everybody's disagreeing about it. The Eugene, Oregon guy says, oh yeah, a U-Haul showed up with Star Wars sets in it. Brandon was talking about the Salem store. You got Matt McNeff saying there was no U-Haul there. It was a rental car. You got Crystal saying, yeah, I thought it was really weird. There was a U-Haul truck there. So I told the McNeff, I really got to find out what the truth is here.
If you know anything about it, let me know, because that's just something I heard.
I do, and it has nothing to do with the Salem store. Well, at least not the Salem store in the way that it is there. Brandon showed up to the Salem store in a rental car. When he came to get the keys from Crystal, he was there in a rental car, not in a U-Haul.
So when there was the handoff, there wasn't a U-Haul, it was a rental car.
Correct. He was there in a rental car.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think any of the, like, if you were to look at the footage, the ring cameras, all that stuff, you won't see a U-Haul sitting anywhere in the parking lot.
So after hearing all of this, I realized, look, I just got to find the evidence. So I start sifting through these photos I have, right? I realize I have a parking lot photo. I check it. No U-Haul, just a red truck out there. I check another photo where you can see the window. But the problem is, it's night outside, so you can't see.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at everything I can, and there's just nothing. I have this alternate angle. I'm looking at that, and then wait,
U-Haul.
zoom in on that photo.
There it is.
Brightness of this photo.
There
a
it
little bit.
fucking is.
My gosh, there's a U-Haul in the parking lot right outside of the store the night of November 14th, 2024. This is something that Matt said he had seen footage of, and it couldn't be true.
And again, I believe I've seen footage from that night that shows clearly out into the parking lot, and there's no U-Haul.
After seeing this, I said, I really have to make a call. And that's when the story changed.
So last night, I talked with Matt McNeff. I brought up this question of the U-Haul. He told me emphatically there was no U-Haul. Y'all came to me.
Corporate is fucking lying.
There that night. Can you clear up what that's about?
So there's actually two different things that are going on here, just to help you understand. And I don't know if you want this particularly not on the record, but we do know of a disgruntled former employee that worked at another location that back on the 24th of October, there was a U-Haul that went to a storage unit in Salem for another previous franchisee, for a different situation that we had just, gone through some things, and he had it previously, hey, I have some inventory that I didn't turn over that I was supposed to. It's at this storage location.
No, sus as absolute fuck. You're handling a problem with the with a franchisee, and you're booting her out, and then you're actually sending a U-Haul for that specific franchisee before her? Nah, I don't fucking buy it.
You guys can come pick it up. And so Brandon was sent on that day to pick up with a U-Haul.
No goddamn fucking way. That's not a fucking coincidence. Go fuck yourself.
Inventory that then he moved down, but that was October 24th.
So when we're talking about this ex-employee, you're saying they are conflating the October 24th event of the U-Haul coming up to Eugene with Legos with sometime after November 14th, after the store takeover. Is that correct? Am I understanding that?
Bricks and Minifigs. You all should have sent some hitmen. You guys are screwing yourselves. You guys are just screwing yourselves. You should have just removed evidence. You should have just removed evidence, but now the lies are fucking coming up. Y'all are thieves, bruh. Bricks and Minifigs. Y'all are thieves.
Yes.
So this is now kind of a strange story. Corporate is saying there was a U-Haul at the Eugene store dropping off Lego, but that was from a different night, different collection. The CEO says Brandon showed up to Salem on October 24th for his secret shopper job with Crystal, and separately, he also was getting a different collection of Legos that also included Star Wars, and that's what he brought to the Eugene store, and the former employee is remembering. Then, weeks later, on November 14th, Brandon supposedly shows up again with a U-Haul, but the reason isn't for hauling Lego.
Brandon flew in to Eugene that night. At midnight. So flew from Utah on the 13th, but landed in Oregon on midnight of the 14th. Went and got a rental truck, and then went and stayed at a trailer that had previously been moved up there in anticipation of a camper trailer in anticipation of the potential hostile takeover previously.
Is that why he had a U-Haul? Is that the reason he had a U-Haul was for this camper, or what's going on with the?
Yes. So then what happens is he takes his rental vehicle truck and he tries to connect the trailer, the camping trailer, to that truck, and it's not rated for that particular weight, and he realized, oh crap. He called around and found that U-Haul had a rating for one of their box trucks, and so he grabbed that, went and got it at 10 a.m. on the 14th, and so he then went and hooked that trailer up to the camping trailer, to a U-Haul, drove that trailer down to another location where he could set up the camping trailer in Salem, dropped out the camper trailer, and then he arrived in a U-Haul to the Salem store, and then went in, said hi to Crystal, and then as she was leaving, the door shuts, and so he locks it, calls the locksmith, takes him a while to finish up the changing of the locks. Brandon at this point is pretty exhausted, so and he has an hour drive back to Eugene to drop off the rental truck, so he drops it off at midnight or 1.
You're scripted. You're reading something from a fucking script.
O'clock, something like that, grabs the rental truck, and then heads back up to the camper trailer in Salem. And then, like, it's probably gets in at around 2
You're fucking reading something. Go fuck yourself. Oh my god.
or 3 in the morning. Spends a couple of, gets that's a little bit of sleep before he has to head back to the store at 9 a.m. before the other employees get there. The timeline that is trying to be portrayed just makes absolutely zero sense.
Okay, so I asked, obviously, for documentation of all of this from Brandon. And here's what I got. First, the U-Haul contract on November 14th. This checks out what we already know. Then I got sent a photo. The last one Brandon took in the Salem store, dated 9:44 p.m., where you can see what looks like the inside of a birdcage that the Gormans had. And lastly, I was sent a photo Brandon took of the mileage in the U-Haul as he dropped it back off at the rental place on November 15th, 12:41 a.m.
Okay.
Now, the time gap there is about 3 hours between the last photo in Salem to dropping the U-Haul off, which is a bit of a problem for our timeline.
Yeah, it took like 4 hours. I mean, I worked till like 11 o'clock, and then I get up early for my other job.
You moved 4 hours of Legos out of this truck.
All right, so as weird as this U-Haul thing is, the timeline just doesn't fit, to be honest. If it took 4 hours to unload, you can't also drive to another city, load and unload and drop off the U-Haul in that time. But still, even if this is true, it's pretty weird. And it's one of the most bizarre stories I've ever heard, to have a U-Haul thing back to back. One of the times you're picking up Legos, the other time you're not, you're taking a camper. Nevertheless, without more proof, we kind of have to move on to another theory of how to find these missing Lego. This time, let's take the photographs that we have and reconstruct in the night.
Okay.
November 14th. Remember, that's the moment we lost the Lego. And this time, we're going to combine it with 2 more things. First, from corporate, I got the point of sale records from the Salem store from 2023 to 2024. And secondly, from Crystal Gorman, I got her internal records of Brian's inventory, of what was sold or not. And
Okay.
pay him and keep
This will be very helpful.
Now, before we piece things together, I need to address something. At the beginning of the story, you saw the social post saying this collection was worth $200,000. That's what everyone knows the story as, the $200,000 Lego collection. But sadly, that post was entirely wrong. In Crystal Gorman's inventory, which has a high and low estimate value of these various Lego items, the real estimated value is about $107,000.
Ouch.
They give high estimates and low estimates, but that's right there in the middle. And for simplicity, I'll just be using averages and estimates here, but understand that, these numbers are not firm, given that they're unsold Lego. It's just rough possibilities. But the point is, it's worth nowhere near $200,000. And Reckless Ben, the one who made the original video covering this, said that surprised him.
Yeah, this entire time, literally every single person has been telling me there were $200,000.
It's not even worth $200,000.
That's for
My original assessment of about $200,000 was going up to his father's house and looking in 3 different rooms with all the sets. It was before I'd actually gone through and had set numbers and done an actual evaluation. I looked at it and went based on as things progressed and as I started to delve more into the actual inventory and evaluating it, that number changed. But
All I know is that the value itself is still high value. It is still a huge deal that $100,000 is misplaced as something else. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah.
we put out the press release well in advance of the event itself. So that press release went out before I had those full numbers. So we went, this is a nice even number that will grab attention and bring people into the store. So we went with that.
And still let me believe that is accurate at the high end. Like, it was one of those things where when she was looking through and going, well, it says this and it says this, like, you don't think even at the high end?
You haven't actually seen the spreadsheet.
No.
You might want to cut that part out because he hasn't actually seen the inventory sheet.
The spreadsheet says about from between 85,000 to 120 something thousand, and the midpoint about 107 or something like that of what was inventory. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been a really big point of misinformation to clear up, because if we're ever going to find the missing Lego, we need to start with the right number, the right value. It's about $107,000. Now, between 2023 and 2024, the Gormans record sales of about $24,000 of Brian's collection in their inventory tracking list. And of those sales, Brian was entitled to about 65 to 70% of it. He was paid $17,000, which roughly tracks with that. Which means on November 14th, the big night, the remaining amount of Brian's collection that should have been in there is about $82,000. That doesn't take a genius to realize this is a very different number than corporate provided, who found only $2,000 to $5,000 of it linked to Brian. And later
That's a lie.
Found $13,000 to $15,000 in total Lego Star Wars.
So you're talking maybe $11,000 to $15,000 total Star Wars, and that's all Star Wars inventory in the whole story.
So that's corporate side of the story, but I didn't want to take their word for it. So I went through Crystal's photos myself.
Yeah, because their credibility is shit. Corporate's credibility and information is bullshit. Thank God CoffeeZilla is not listening to them anymore.
Which she shared with me, and hired people to go through and hand tag the Star Wars Legos that were in these photos. We looked through over 200 plus photos, multiple videos, and matched what we saw with Brian's collection. In the end, I ended up with about $21,000 of Legos matching Brian's collection that can be proven to be in the store on the night of November 14th. Now, to state the obvious, that's about 3 to 5 times what corporate estimated, at least on their press release. Now, yes, there are inherent errors in these estimates. Maybe we picked up some Lego that matched Brian's collection, but wasn't Brian's. But even though this is a bigger number than corporate said, I have to admit, even with pretty generous assumptions being made, there's still a huge gap of about $61,000 here that I just couldn't find. But then I learned Brian had made a special side deal with M&R Productions. Productions, who had recently purchased some Lego.
M&R.
And this is where it starts to get messy. So these are the pictures that M&R Productions sent me, looking at the Lego that Brian sold him. This was stuff reportedly in storage, and it's interesting because of an early inventory list, which had a column called location that Crystal used, and it listed a lot of the Star Wars items as being located in what they called storage. Now, previously, I was told that all of the stuff in storage was put back in the store, but there's a bunch that's on this list that I can't find in the store that seem to appear in these pictures. Now, I've been assured, by the way, that most of these Legos were not part of the inventory spreadsheet. They were never given to Bricks and Minifigs. This is a separate part of the collection, but I did a check, and 100% of the item that matched the Brian collection inventory just so happened to be listed with a location of storage. So this starts to make things incredibly fuzzy, and I'm inclined to believe that a lot of these are part of that same inventory list. Now, if we take that value of the side deal, that's about $10,000 to $20,000 that's not actually missing.
Okay.
Now, it was at this point I started looking more at the point of sales records. I realized maybe we could find some of this missing Lego there too. So this is from the Salem internal store records. Like, I guess this is what is entered when someone does a sale, and it's everything from September 2023 to November 2024 of Star Wars anything. And by the way, before we continue, yes, this was all a lot of work. If you want to, please support us on Patreon. That's how this show gets made. But anyways, according to those records, about $51,000 in sales went through during this time period in a way that matched Brian Mansell's collection. Now, that really worried me because Crystal's inventory list showed only $24,000 sales for Brian, and Brian was only paid for that amount. But suddenly, I remembered back to a time when I spoke to Crystal, and I asked how much was sold prior to the takeover.
Which is something similar from what you told me, Kristen.
Yeah.
You told me, hey, it was about 50-something thousand.
Yeah.
But Brian was only paid 17,000.
Okay.
And it should have been about double that. And I'm just trying to make sense of that, given that everyone's accusing each other of theft right now. And you understand?
I mean, without seeing any of those records, without seeing those individual tickets, I can't answer that any better.
Okay, this is kind of a problem. The math ain't math in here. 65 to 70% of 50,000 is almost double what we believe Brian was paid. And digging into the details, it turns out a lot of these sales come from what Crystal's spreadsheet actually categorizes as layaway, meaning they were marked as having been sold, but layaways are when someone puts a down payment on an item and later pays it off.
Okay.
But the problem was there were a lot of these, worth about $20,000 in
layaway.
And that felt a little strange to me. And because of that, I asked Josh Johnson, the incoming owner, and he responded, quote, there were 2 to 3 items on layaway when they took over.
So on the list of that, on the inventory list, do you know about how many layaways?
I haven't gone through and done a count, but I know it was vastly more than 2 to 3.
It was about 98.
That makes sense.
So there were about $15,000 to $25,000 worth of sets.
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's just the part that's surprising. That's the part that I can't get my head around. I go, how could, let me just be really honest. I don't believe there was that much layaway. I don't know. I don't know how that's possible. How could there be that much layaway? I don't know. It's like I don't believe, because I was talking to some people about Bricks and Minifigs. They go, yeah, there's some layaway. There's not that much layaway. I talked to people who were neutral, kind of on corporate side, but also people who were just normal Bricks and Minifigs people. They say there's not that much layaway. Help me understand why there's $20,000 worth of layaway here.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. If you talk to other Bricks and Minifigs locations, layaway is extremely rare. I think outside of the Brian's collection.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy here. So then why was there so much layaway there?
No, absolutely not. Outside of Brian's collection, I think at the time we maybe had 2 used sets on layaway outside of his collection. It was not a common thing traditionally. I don't know that we'd ever done layaway before the collection came in. With Brian's collection, it was a little bit different because so much of this collection were new in box, all in one place, reasonably priced, and a lot of the harder to buy items. And so customers would come in and put, I'm going to guess probably half of those layaway items were not going to be sold to the person who took them on layaway, because we had several that would put them on layaway and then change them.
I'm confused a little bit.
This was something like, somebody would come in and want 10 different sets, but only be able to buy 1. Can I put the rest of those on layaway so you don't sell them? I'll pay $10 to put these sets on layaway. Traditionally with layaway, we would ask for 10% down. They'd have 30 days to make their next payment, or we'd refund the layaway amount and then put it back on the shelf. Because this collection was the collection it was, and I wanted to give these people the opportunity to, to get these sets, we were a lot more generous with how long and the amount of payments that people could make towards the layaway. So a lot of these, we had several of them. I think one of the Ewok villages, we put on layaway 4 different times, and then it came off of layaway and back on layaway and then off and then sold. So a lot of these would have gone on and off of layaway and then back out on the shelf, just depending on the person who was putting it on layaway. That was completely unique to this collection.
So look, I'll be honest, I don't trust Josh Johnson, but something is weird here.
So a lot of these are, look at this.
Oh boy.
As final sale price, but it's listed as a layaway, but it's sold for $5.99.
Yeah.
Because it matches with the store sale price.
Okay.
So were they on layaway? Were they accidentally marked layaway on the spreadsheet? What's going on there?
I mean, without seeing the actual sales ticket and seeing what else, what items were sold together, what else was sold with it, I can't actually see the sales ticket. We had several layaway items in which customers were putting multiple things on layaway, paying for most of one item, and then, or they were buying, 8 different things together and then putting all of them on layaway and making payments on multiple items at the same time. Our Ewok village was one of those cases. At some point, he had, I think, 8 or 9 different items on layaway.
Okay.
So they come in and make a payment for a bulk payment. You know, I've got 800 things on layaway. I'm going to make $100 on my payment. One customer in particular would do that, and then when he's gotten up high enough to pay for one set, he pull that set out, mark it as sold. So without seeing the actual tickets and my layaway records, I cannot answer a question any clearer than that.
But I even found more than that in this POS data. I also found about $10,000 in sales that match Brian's collection that were not marked as sold under this inventory spreadsheet. Some of our things that were not found were explained by the POS system because they were found in the POS system as being sold. So like they weren't marked on the spreadsheet, but they were marked as sold via the POS system. And this is about $10,000 worth of Lego that basically were matched.
See, and I don't know. Take anything happening from, sorry, I'm trying to do math here. I don't know without being able to see all of the records. There is a possibility that the consignments were ended when I wasn't at work and I just didn't go through and pull them up. They didn't get put in the consignment ticket. I hadn't gone through those consignments in a couple of months. I hadn't gone through the inventory in the back room in a couple of months. So it is entirely possible there were sales that were finished that I never clocked as being finished. I don't know that without going through and actually seeing it.
But you're saying it's possible stuff was sold, not updated on this inventory list.
It's entirely possible that stuff did not get updated on my spreadsheet. I'm not going to sit here and claim that it's not possible. It's possible I missed things.
So where does this leave us? I know some people are jumping to conclusions here, but I must remind you that on the night of November 14th, 2024, Crystal Gorman was concerned about Brian getting paid or not getting paid.
He has not been paid his percentage yet, and if I don't have the tickets, I won't know how much I need to pay.
So Crystal, ultimately, that's a business thing and not necessarily yours.
Oh, go fuck yourself. If she's concerned with not finishing a full transaction yet, that's actually supposed to be her business. But corporate muscled in just like that. That's the problem with corporate. They muscled in. They took everything.
Okay, we can mistake on business mistakes and all that. That's happening.
So obviously, one could see that and say she was intending to reconcile with Brian. Maybe she hadn't gotten around to it. And of course, corporate will probably take a more cynical view of what she's doing by printing these receipts. But the point is, regardless of whose side you're on, I think we can all agree there's a lot of weird stuff here on all sides. Abnormal stuff. Sure, maybe you can chalk some of this up. The bad record keeping between the U-Haul, the layaway, $20,000 in Lego sets that corporate called $2,000 to $5,000 that was there that night, the off-book deals. But even if we can't fully know 100%, what these weird things were about, I think they tell a story of what actually happened to Brian's collection. In a way, multiple people, I think they're kind of right, kind of wrong. The Gormans were correct that more of that collection was there that night of the takeover than previously thought. But corporate also alleged that some of it was offsite, and that appears to be partly true. Although some of that is disputed, and it looks like, way more of the collection was sold and layaway than Brian was paid for. But all in all, there's a lot less missing than many people think, especially if your starting number is $200,000. I estimated, and I must emphasize, estimated with bad record, that there's only about $10,000 to $20,000 in Lego that isn't explained by one of these sources. This isn't to say Brian's been fully compensated. Much of this, Brian wasn't paid for that I know of. So I estimate he's still out about $50,000 to $83,000 for Lego he wasn't compensated for.
Yeah.
And I think honestly that's something that Bricks and Minifigs obviously should handle and make right. Regardless of what a franchisee does, the new one, the old one, the company behind it must stand behind their product. Their
exactly.
A better example of a company doing the opposite. Unfortunately, Bricks and Minifigs has chosen to deflect and dodge responsibility at most opportunities.
They don't even want to be held accountable. They don't want to be responsible for this actual case because they're all sacks of shit. The CEOs, you've seen it. They're sacks of shit. The two brothers.
And created a really awful customer experience that has snowballed into this crazy series of events. But instead of taking accountability for that, they've taken an aggressive legal strategy, which I told him personally was a horrible idea. As writing this, Ryan Mansell is being sued for $1.3 million as part of a legal campaign against him and Reckless Ben and any of the associates. Remember, Brian is the same guy who lost all these Legos at Bricks and Minifigs store. And
instead of just corporate actually just owning up to their actions and finishing it right then and there, they just went ahead and, in the most ugly sense of the word, just drop lawsuits. Just actual go and file lawsuits against these two who had nothing to do against Bricks and Minifigs except reminding the corporation that they should fucking do their fucking jobs for the fucking consumer. If they care well enough for the fucking consumer, they wouldn't sue Brian Mansell himself. But they did. He was a customer, but the corporation acted in fucking bad faith. This is rotten. What Bricks and Minifigs actually did. Rotten to the core.
Told the CEO and COO that's ridiculous and they should drop this. Look, mistakes have been made by plenty of people here, but there's a lot more people who have inflicted self-owns, the likes of which we've rarely seen, by just choosing the worst possible path at every fork in the road. No pun intended. But the best path to making things right, in my view, is by just making Brian whole and moving on. Drop the aggressive legal strategy. You are a Lego store at the end of the day. You are supposed to be about fun, not about a rerun of Suits. But anyways, that's my investigation. Those are my closing thoughts. And I knew I wanted to approach everyone involved in this whole story with my results and see what they thought to close things out. Does all that make sense to you? Because I'm showing everyone in this story and saying, hey, are any of these numbers blowing your mind, or is any of this crazy to you?
No, it's not great. But what's crazy, again, all the photo evidence that both sides have. Points there being sure $20,000 worth of Lego in this of Star Wars Lego in the store. That right? I don't know. I'm just like, do people understand maybe why there was some confusion and why there was some hesitation when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, you owe me $60,000 worth of product Lego," and we go, "We don't even know who you are." Like, yeah, Crystal mentioned something about consignment on her way out the door. And we go, "Sure, we'll get that figured out." But then the guy just walks in and demands $60,000 worth of Lego. Like, what am I supposed to do other than say, "Cool, show me? Can you show me the proof?"
The problem is there's so much of a dispute on the timeline, and this is what's going to make the story so hard to tell. Like, they say you guys are unreasonable. They tried, and eventually they gave up. But they say they tried it. They were basically met with like unreasonable requests, things like that. So
verification, documentation, is that unreasonable? You think?
Well, I think they would say they provided the documentation, and you guys say you need more documentation. So I mean, that's kind of the
right. A spread, like I understand, a spreadsheet and a contract are a good start. Yeah. We never got that. That was never sent to us at corporate, by the way.
Y'all do have the spreadsheet though, yeah?
That was shared online, but months after we asked for it.
It says it's. I'm so confused. It says I'm on the file right now. It says storage used, owned by BAM Franchising Inc. Owner Salem.or bricksandminifigs.com.
What are you looking at?
It says owner Salem.or at bricksandminifigs.com. That's you guys. It says owned by BAM Franchising Inc. It was created September 6, 2024. When I look at it, this is the sell list.
So this would have been created under so we have the
y'all definitely have this. Y'all have access to it.
Well, I had no idea. Like, so if this is the first that anybody has shown me that a spreadsheet was created using Bricks and Minifigs Salem, like, and all of this stuff was archived. This is the first I've seen that this spreadsheet was created by Crystal. And we don't know how accurate it is, how up to date it was. We don't know a lot of those types of things. And understand, I appreciate you sharing this with us because we had no idea. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't, like, we don't know everything. We don't go, like, looking in every nook and cranny everywhere. Like, we just don't know some of those things. So if that's there, we can now have our team go look for that.
When it comes right down to it, they're going to have to make a judgment call and say who's telling the truth. The people who were taking all the pictures and say, and we couldn't take pictures of everything the night of, but we're being honest consistently, and the people who are saying there was $5,000 there. Really? Like, that makes no sense. We've got the evidence, and yes, there's a discrepancy. We acknowledge we did not take pictures of everything, but does that mean that the discrepancy is, and therefore these missing, percentage, whatever that would be, 5%, is some magical other place? It was sitting there in the store, and we didn't get pictures of it.
If I messed up on my record keeping, I will take accountability for that. Mm-hmm. It's possible. If my staff didn't draw attention that consignments had left out, so I'd move them to the thing. Any of that, I will take accountability for that. I am more than willing to do that. I need BAM to show me those tickets.
As they promised to do.
I will sit down with Brian and talk this over and figure out what we missed and where it was missed and how it was missed and make that right with him.
I mean, that's new information no one's ever found out, so that's like awesome. They're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because of their own wrongdoing. They're literally going to destroy their entire company because they're this stubborn over maybe $20,000 worth of Lego.
Sure, I'll be keeping you in the loop with what
Nice, I'm excited. This was good work. My other final thoughts is, dude, you solved it, dude. That's awesome.
Brandon Best and Josh Johnson are no longer working at Bricks and Minifigs. Oh, really? Yeah, Bricks and Minifigs is suing Brian Mansell and Reckless Ben for over $1 million in damages. A restraining order is in effect against Reckless Ben to prevent him from speaking about Bricks and Minifigs, which is absolutely horseshit corporate speak for we will obliterate you using the law if you speak out fucking against us. That should be fucking illegal. An original aggregate value of around $250,000. Yep, lawsuits are just flying. They're just flying around. It's just something, bro. It's just something. I'm going to really just say it. It's just, damn. That's just amazing. So what have we learned today, folks? Honestly, nothing else but Bricks and Minifigs. All people who are under corporate rule are all lying sacks of shit. Give back what's owed to consumers and fucking dissolve yourselves. Every single one of you in that fucking corporation are disgusting. Every fucking single one of you.